Dumfries è solo Lautaro, rete, ha segnato l'Inter.
This is the Pazza Inter podcast, where we talk passion, tactics, victories, heartbreak, and everything in between. Because with Inter, it's never just football. Vamos! Vamos! Ciao people, and welcome to the Pazza Inter podcast. I'm your host, Dijanek, coming at you from Milan, the home of the boys in black and blue, and today we have to talk about Inter's 1-1 draw against Fiorentina, and here is how it went down. Inter actually scored after 39 seconds through Francesco Pio Esposito, who headed in a brilliant cross from Nicolò Barella. Dream start, exactly what you want in a title race. But the problem with Inter right now is the same problem we've been talking about for weeks. They don't kill games. They go ahead, they control possession, and then they leave the door open. And Fiorentina kept knocking until they got their goal in the 77th minute when Cher Ndur scored on the rebound after Sommer made the initial save. If you look at the stats, Inter had more possession, about 60%. But Fiorentina actually created the better chances and had higher expected goals. So in the end, the draw is probably fair, but for us at Inter, fair isn't good enough right now. The bigger picture is the title race. Inter is still top of the table with 69 points, but their lead has been cut to 6 points. And more importantly, this was another game we didn't win. And they're now on a winless run, and the momentum is starting to shift a little bit. And I'm going to be honest, this one hurts, because this is exactly the kind of game that decides championships. You go to Florence, you score after 40 seconds, the game is literally in your hands, and you have to bring those 3 points home. Not maybe, not almost, you have to. And instead, it's the same story all over again. Inter play well, Inter control the game, Inter create chances, but Inter don't kill the game. And when you don't kill the game, you keep the other team alive. And Fiorentina stayed alive until the 77th minute, and of course they score. Of course. Because that's what happens in football when you don't finish the job. And the frustrating part is that this team is strong. Really strong. You can see it in the way we move the ball, in the way Barella fights for every ball, in the way the defense controls most of the match. But right now, we look like a team that's playing with the weight of the title on their shoulders. We look nervous, we look tired, and we look like a team that's starting to think too much instead of just playing. But I'll tell you one thing, Pio Esposito. Remember that name, because this kid scores after 40 seconds in a game like this. With that personality, that courage, that's not normal. That's an Inter player. That's someone who's not afraid of the shirt. Still, a draw is not enough now. Not at this stage of the season. If Inter want to be champions, these are the games you must win. Because titles are not won in the big games. They're won in these games, where you're 1-0 up and you have to be ruthless. So now the question is not about quality, because Inter have quality. The question is about mentality. Do Inter really want this title? Because in the last few weeks, we're going to find out the truth. Now, if we want to talk tactically for a moment, Inter's build-up was good, especially through Barella in midfield, and the wing-backs were creating space. But in the final third, Inter were just not clinical enough. Too many chances wasted, too many situations where the last pass was missing. So for me, the player of the week has to be Barella. He was everywhere, running, fighting, creating, crossing for the goal. He plays every game like it's a derby, and that's the mentality Inter need right now. But now we come to my rant of the week, and it's simple. If Inter want to win the league, they have to be ruthless. Champions are ruthless. Champions don't draw these games. Champions score the second goal and kill the match. Right now, Inter are playing well, but not like champions in the last few weeks, and that's what worries me. Kolarov, who is standing in for Kivu this week, set up Inter in a 3-5-2. Barella, Çalhanoğlu and Zielinski controlled the midfield, Dumfries and Di Marco provided width, but the final ball was lacking. Defensively, Akanji and Bisek were solid, while Sommer kept Inter in the game with some good saves. The main problem, Inter didn't manage the 1-0 lead. When you go up early, you must dominate, and Fiorentina showed that a single mistake can cost you dearly. So I'd say this brings us neatly to the Inter report cards. No mercy, no discounts, ratings out of 10. Let's go. So let's start at the back. Sommer, I'd give him a 6.5 out of 10. Solid between the sticks, made a key save early, kept us in the game, and was unlucky on the rebound goal. Bisek, 6. Physically strong, defended well, and still adjusting to Serie A intensity. Akanji, 6.5. Calm as always, composed, excellent positioning, passed the ball out from the back beautifully. Carlos Augusto, 6. Did his defensive duties well, held his side and made a few important interceptions. Dumfries, 5.5. Ran all day, tried to stretch the defense, but final balls and crosses just weren't there. Barella, my boy, 7.5. Inter's heartbeat. Assisted the lightning-fast goal, worked tirelessly, bossed the midfield. Leader, fighter, inspiration, Inter's best performer yesterday. No contest. Çalhanoğlu, 6. Controlled possession, recycled the ball, but lacked decisive final third passes. Zielinski, oddly quiet, didn't make the impact we needed in attack. Di Marco, 6. Active on the left flank, provided some dangerous crosses, but didn't deliver a decisive moment. Now we come to our strikers. Marcus Thuram, worked hard, pressed well, but didn't create anything meaningful. Esposito, 7. Scored after 40 seconds. He showed immense confidence and personality. Definitely a bright spot for us this week. Frattesi, some of the guys who came in. Frattesi, I'd give him a 6. Came on with energy, pressed hard and gave the team some freshness. Sucic, 6. Came on and brought energy and intensity in midfield. Definitely a positive impact. Luis Enrique, 5.5. He tried to create something on the wing, but didn't manage to change the game. Bonni, 5.5. Worked hard, good movement, but didn't have a real chance to score. And lastly, Acerbi, 6. Came on and helped defensively, solid and experienced. When it comes to Kolarov, our coach who stood in for Kivu, obviously being suspended, I'd say 5.5. The team started very well, but after going up by 1, Inter needed to control the game better and close it out. And they couldn't, and that's why we left Florence feeling like 2 points lost. So I think now's a good time to zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture, because there were some very important results in Serie A this weekend. Let's start with our oh-so-odious cousins Milan, who won 3-2 against Torino in a very intense game. This is why Milan are dangerous. They have a lot of quality in attack. I think of folks like Leao and Pulisic, and also, of course, Rabiot, and they can score goals quickly, but conceding 2 goals also shows that they are not perfect defensively. So they are dangerous, but they're not unbeatable, unless we play them. Juventus drew 1-1 with Sassuolo, and that's a very interesting result for the title race, because Juventus are usually the team that wins these games 1-0. When Juventus start drawing instead of winning, that can change the momentum of the season. They are still very dangerous, but this is definitely 2 points dropped. Napoli won 1 away in Cagliari, and this is a very important result. Not a big win, not a beautiful win, but a very important win. because at this stage of the season, winning one away from home is how you stay in the title race. It means maturity, discipline, and mentality, regardless of what you think of their coach, Conte. And then we have to talk about Como, the surprise of this season. 5-0 against Pizza. That is a huge win. Scoring 5 goals in this league is never easy, and it shows that Como are a team full of confidence right now, thanks to not only the young talent they have in players like Nico Pazza, but of course their excellent coach Fabregas. They play attacking football, they play without fear, and they can be a very dangerous opponent for anyone who underestimates them. And as Inter fans, we should definitely take note of that when it comes to our return game in the Coppa Italia semi-final. So if we look at the weekend overall, Milan win, Napoli win, Juventus drop points, Como dominate, and we draw. Which means the table gets tighter and the pressure gets higher. This is the moment in the season where mentality, as I mentioned earlier, is everything. Not just tactics, not just quality, mentality. The team that handles pressure best is the team that ultimately wins the title. So for Inter, I think the message is simple. Focus on winning because the other teams will drop points, but Inter must not drop points at the same time, because from now until the end of the season, every match is literally a final. So that was this week. Let's look ahead to the next match. This is where we find out what this team is made of, because the season is almost over and now it's not about tactics anymore. It's about mentality, personality, and courage. So let's get to this. Inter's next match is against Roma at home, and it's not just another game. This is a test of mentality. Roma are always dangerous, they're organised, they're aggressive, and they make games ugly. And right now, Inter don't need a beautiful win. We need a strong win, a professional win, a 1-0, 2-0, control the game, no drama kind of win. That's what champions do at this stage of the season. But the other big match, of course, to watch is Milan against Napoli, because that game could change everything in the table. This is where the pressure starts to move. If Napoli win, the title race gets tighter. If Milan win, it changes the Champions League race. If it's a draw, Inter benefit. So Inter players, Inter fans, we will all be watching that game very, very closely. This is the point in the season where you don't just play your game. You also start looking at other results. You start calculating. You start feeling the pressure. And this is where we find out if Inter are really champions. Because champions don't look at others. They win their own games. Simple as that. So the message now is clear. Beat Roma, no excuses. Win the game, take the 3 points, and then watch what happens in Milan against Napoli. So I'd say that's it for today's episode of the Pazza Inter podcast. Remember, with Inter, it's never easy, it's never calm, and of course, it's never boring, but we wouldn't have it any other way. So of course, dear listeners, I hope you enjoyed today. Share the podcast with a fellow Interista, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for your listening and the privilege of your time. And as always, Forza Inter. Vamos!